Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 1 through verse 8. And it came about in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, that wine was before him. And I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. So the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, though you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of heart." Then I was very much afraid, and I said to the king, "Let the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies desolate, and its gates have been consumed by fire?" Then the king said to me, "What would you request?" So I prayed to the God of heaven. This is a silent prayer. Here's his opportunity. And I said to the king, "If it please the king, and if your servant has found favor before you, send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it." Then the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, "How long will your journey be, and when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me, and I gave him a definite time. And I said to the king, "If it please the king, let letters be given me for the governors of the provinces beyond the river, that they may allow me to pass through until I come to Judah, and a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the fortress which is by the temple, for the wall of the city, and for the house to which I will go." And the king granted them to me, because the good hand of my God was on me. Now from this we can see that the decree going forth to rebuild and restore Jerusalem was given by Artaxerxes, and the time is March the 5th, 444 BC. So that is the beginning of the 490-year period of time. That's the beginning of the 70 weeks of years. From the, as Daniel says in verse 25, from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there will be 7 weeks and 60 and 2 weeks, or 69 weeks. So the 7 weeks, or rather the beginning, is 444 BC. Now notice also in verse 25 that he says that this time from the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem is to be 7 weeks. And remember, the weeks mean weeks of years. We discussed that last year. So that would be 7 weeks would be 49 years. And then 62 weeks would be 434 years, would it not? And 434 plus 49 would be 483 years. You can do all of that in your head. Don't need your computer for that. So, notice the Bible doesn't say much about the 7 weeks. It just says 7 weeks and then 60 and 2 weeks, or 69 in all. I don't know really why that is so, why the 7 weeks are distinguished from the 62, except to say this, that while it took Nehemiah only 52 days to rebuild the walls of the city of Jerusalem when he got there, it was a remarkable achievement. It must have taken considerably longer period of time to clear up the debris around the city of Jerusalem, which had gathered there over a lengthy period of time. So since nothing much is said about it, we'll just offer that as a guess, that the 49 years was taken to rebuild the city of Jerusalem and clean it up. So that was March the 5th, 444 BC. Now the 69 weeks then cover a period of time from 444 to March the 30th, 33 AD. Now this is the way this is computed. The weeks of the prophetic year the years of the prophetic year are 360 days, not 365. Now the reason for that is that when the Bible speaks about, for example, a half of the year of a half of the last week, which would be half of 7 years, it describes it as 1,260 days. In addition, when that 1,260 days is expressed in months, it's 42 months. So the Bible gives indication, and there are other indications as well, that the year was computed on the basis of 360, not 365 days. So 69 weeks is 69 weeks of years of 360 days. Consequently, from 444 BC to AD 33 is 476 years. That equals, did you do this in your head too? 173,855 days. And since there are some days from March the 5th to March the 30th, we add 25 days, and we have 173,880 days from the time of the decree of Artaxerxes to Messiah the Prince, according to that 25th verse. So we divide 173,880 days by 360 days a year, and we come to 483 years, which is, of course, the 49 plus the 434. And the 483 divided by 7, which is, of course, because these are 7 weeks of years, we have 69 weeks of years, thus QED. We know then that from the decree to rebuild and restore Jerusalem, the decree of Artaxerxes, the end of the 483 years, the 69 weeks, is March the 30th, 33 AD. Now, this computation may be off a little bit, but this has been done by some who have studied this in some detail. This happens to be the figure of Dr. Harold Honer of Dallas Seminary in the New Testament Department, who has written a paper on this subject in Bibliotheca Sacra of a few years ago. So that what Daniel then is giving us here is the means by which a student of Daniel might know the time of the Messiah's coming. So, let's read the verse again. Then after 60 and 2 weeks, the Messiah, well, I read the 25th verse, so you are to know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, 444 BC, until Messiah the Prince, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, or 69 weeks of years, or 483 years. It, Jerusalem, will be built again with plaza and moat, even in times of distress. Now this then is a rather remarkable thing. The prophecy of Daniel then, in effect, has given the students of the Old Testament a specific temporal help for the determination of the time when the Messiah might be expected to appear. So that the students of the Old Testament, if they had studied the prophecy of Daniel, should have been able to determine when the Messiah would come. The terminus a quo is the decree of Artaxerxes, 444 BC. The terminus ad quem, or the end for which this has to do, is 33 AD, March the 30th. Incidentally, that date is the date of our Lord's triumphal entry into the city of Jerusalem. I'd like